The black belt asked a black janitor to spar with him for fun. What happened next silenced the entire martial arts gym. "Hey, you there cleaning. How about a quick demonstration?" shouted Derek Mitchell from the center of the mat, his black belt gleaming under the gym's fluorescent lights. "I bet you've never seen a real fight in your life, right?" James Washington stopped mopping the floor and slowly looked up. At 42, he had been working as a janitor at that gym for only 3 weeks, always arriving after hours when the students had already left. But on that Thursday night, the advanced classes training had gone past the usual time. "I don't want to bother you, Sensei," James replied calmly, returning to scrubbing a stubborn stain on the floor. "Just finishing up here so you can get back to it." Derek let out a loud theatrical laugh that echoed through the gym. "Everyone, look at this. The guy's afraid to even step on the mat." The 8 students present laughed nervously, some clearly uncomfortable with the situation. What Derek didn't know was that James had spent the last 20 years trying to completely forget who he really was. 20 years since he left the ring after an accident that changed his life forever. 20 years keeping a secret that not even his teenage daughter knew about. "Come on, man," Derek continued, approaching him with that arrogant smile he used to intimidate beginners. "Just a little demonstration. I bet you don't even know how to do a basic guard. How about showing my students the difference between someone who trains and someone who just cleans?" James felt that familiar sensation in his chest, like a dormant muscle being awakened after years of inactivity. His eyes met Derek's briefly, and for a split second, something passed between them that made the instructor take an involuntary step back. "Just an educational demonstration," Derek insisted, now trying to hide the sudden uncertainty in his voice. "Nothing too serious. Just to show the beginners why it's important to respect the martial art." James set the bucket on the floor and stood up slowly. His movements had a fluidity that was strange for someone who had supposedly never stepped on a tatami mat before. Around the gym, the students stopped training, realizing that something was happening. "All right," James said finally, his voice calm like the surface of a lake before a storm. "But when we're done, you're going to apologize to all of them for turning the mat into a circus." Derek laughed, but this time the sound was a little forced. "Apologize? Man, you're going to be the one apologizing to the floor when you meet it." What none of those people knew was that James Washington had once been James Silent Storm Washington, 5-time world mixed martial arts champion. He had retired at the height of his career after an accident that cost the life of his best friend and training partner. Since then, he had sworn never to fight again. But some promises are made to be broken when dignity is at stake. If you're enjoying this story of overcoming adversity and justice, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to find out how a simple moment of prejudice would turn into the most humiliating lesson of Derek Mitchell's life. Derek adjusted his black belt with a theatrical gesture, clearly savoring every second of attention. "Everyone, gather around. You're about to see a practical demonstration of why there is a hierarchy in the world of martial arts." James watched as the 8 students formed a semicircle around the mat. Some seemed eager for the demonstration, others visibly uncomfortable. A young Asian woman with her hair tied back muttered something to her classmate next to her, who just shook his head in disapproval. "Look, everyone," Derek continued, gesturing dramatically. "Here we have a perfect example of someone who never understood that there are appropriate places for certain types of people. Elite gyms are not for, well, you know." James felt that familiar twinge in his chest, the same one he had felt 20 years ago when he heard similar comments about fighters who didn't look like champions. The difference was that now, at 42, he had learned to turn anger into fuel for something much more powerful than punches. "Sensei Derek," the young Asian woman interrupted timidly, "maybe we can continue our normal training? It's getting late and—" "Sarah-chun, are you questioning my teaching methodology?" Derek cut her off sharply. "Sit down and watch. You'll learn more in the next 5 minutes than in a month of conventional training." James noticed how Derek used the girl's full name, a clear demonstration of authority. He also recognized the look of fear in her eyes, The same look he had seen in the mirror 2 decades ago when he woke up in a panic remembering the accident that took the life of Tony Hammer Rodriguez, his best friend and training partner. Tony had died because of him. It was that simple. A series of punches that James had thrown with excessive force during sparring. Tony fell, hit his head on the floor in a strange way, and never woke up. The investigation concluded that it was an accident, but James knew the truth. He had lost control because of the pressure and the racist comments from the audience that night.